okay yesterday?
Yeah, we're in good shape. Good shape. Obviously, there's guys when you play that many snaps that are sore and nicked up a little bit today, but we're in good shape and think that everybody that played yesterday will be in position to play in the game this week against Michigan.
Just from a recovery standpoint, when you play, the defense was on the field for 91 snaps, and your offense had 90 snaps.
Right.
Is that something you take into consideration this week?
Well, we're going to cut back a little bit today, as a result of it. Unofficially, it was 98 snaps on defense. That's a lot of snaps. I thought we did a great job and had a great plan to try to substitute and keep fresh guys in the game. And at the end of the game, when it was still a ball game and when the ball game was still on the line, we were able to go hard and be physical up front from a defensive standpoint and change the outcome of the game in some ways. So I thought we did a good job of rotating guys in early and often throughout the course of the ball game, and it impacted the ability to rush the passer and make some big plays at the end of the ball game. So again, even though it was a lot of snaps, we played a lot of guys, but we will cut back some today, obviously.
Just with non-conference play being over now, what do you like about what your team did in the first 4 games?
Well, we won most of the time, and we're undefeated at home in Ross-Age Stadium, and they've given a great effort. We had some errors yesterday, but the bottom line, the guys were really putting a lot of effort into it and trying to win the ball game. We didn't do some things as well as we have liked to. We came out in the second half on offense and didn't manufacture the offense that we would like to have manufactured in the second half of the ball game. A lot of it had to do with the opponent changing up what they did in the second half. They brought a lot of pressure against our offense in the second half. We had blitzes and pressure probably over 80% of the time in the second half, and we're trying to run the ball more and trying to establish a ground game, and running into all those pressures and all those blitzes was not the best thing for our team in offense in some ways, So we have to maybe stick to the game plan more, in the second half. And even though you're ahead, with a large margin, us getting out of sync, on the offensive side of the ball in the second half as a result of all their pressures narrowed that margin some as the game went on. So, but a lot of things to improve on, individually at each position. We went out from a defensive standpoint, particularly in the secondary, and we were ready to play, maybe too ready in some ways, where we had spent so much time identifying some of their route structure that at times we maybe jumped routes a little bit early before they had a chance to fully develop. Need to be a lot more disciplined with our eyes, and locked on to the man that we're covering and be detailed to the letter with our techniques, and maybe got off that a little bit yesterday, and that hurt us some and allowed them to get some guys open and get the ball out of the quarterback's hand. If we could have been maybe a little more disciplined with our coverage techniques throughout the course of the ball game, we could have got the quarterback in position to hold the ball a little bit longer and accrue more hits on the quarterback. I think we had maybe 3 sacks yesterday and about 9 hits on the quarterback and some hurries, but we had a lot of those hurries could have been hits if he hadn't gotten the ball out of his hand quite so quick. So we learned some things from it. Had to be more disciplined from a coverage standpoint, and only use the techniques and defend what we see with our eyes. And I think that will help us some. But overall, a big win for our football team. Did a lot of great things. Had a lot of fun out there yesterday. Pleased with the crowd in Ross-Age Stadium, even though there's still some empty seats. More people showed up. More students showed up. Had great weather and a big win for our football team and our program.
Where are you at? How do you feel about your run game right now?
I felt pretty good about it until the second half. Anytime you're running all of your runs into the teeth of someone's pressure, that can be difficult. We played in their hands in some ways. But I like our run game, and I thought that our offensive line played very well in the first half. I thought our quarterback played very well throughout the course of the ball game, but we didn't run the ball very effectively in the second half, and a lot of it had to do with trying to establish a run because we had a large margin. We were ahead significantly trying to establish a run, and them bringing the pressure and us continuously trying to run the ball into that pressure, and that's slowed down the production of our run game. So, our stats yesterday from a run standpoint, we didn't average that many yards per carry, but a lot of that was trying to manufacture a run game in the teeth of some of their pressures, and they brought a lot of zone pressures, which are hard to see. If the game had been closer, We'd have probably been throwing the ball more in the second half and having a chance to pick those pressures up and maybe manufacture some big plays as a result of it. So I think we've done pretty good as far as running the football. Obviously, when the competition's tougher, when the front seven's better, it's harder to run the football. That was the case some against Notre Dame a couple weeks back, and yesterday trying to run into all that pressure in the second half was a task at times.
Can you talk about the turnovers? You guys are leading the Big Ten right now in turnovers force. How important is that for
You're
you
talking
guys?
about takeaways or turnovers?
Takeaways.
Takeaways? Well, that's huge because our offense has done a pretty good job of scoring many times throughout the course of the season already, cashing in on the opportunities that our defense has provided us. And we felt like coming into the season that takeaways were going to come would be in our favor this season. We didn't get many takeaways early last year. We didn't manufacture a lot of disruption across the front early in the season last year. We came into the season this year believing we could disrupt the front with our defensive line and our front seven, and that we were experienced in the back half, and that we should accrue a lot of takeaways early and often throughout the course of the season, and that's been the case so far. Yesterday was kind of interesting in some ways because when we sit down and look at the film as a staff, and then I meet with the coaches and ask them, what we do good on offense, and what do we do good on defense, and what do we need to do better at on both sides of the ball and special teams as well. When it was all said and done yesterday, Marshall averaged 6.6 yards per pass, and our goal was the defense is to hold the average to under 6.8 yards. And then they averaged 3.5 yards per rush, and our goal as a defense is to hold them under 3.6 yards per rush. That was our goal going into the ball game yesterday. So we met our goals, but the problem is they had 100 plays. So those numbers add up. So again, some things that we could have done better that would have allowed us to play better and maybe increase that big margin that we had at halftime. But again, we learned from it.
What happened on the punt blocks?
Well, it's pretty simple, really. They have a certain amount of splits or spacing they're supposed to have between themselves and the punt team when they line up to protect the punter. And Marshall had a couple of looks where they squeezed some guys down inside tighter to the man that we were adjacent to in our alignment. As a result, we cut our splits down, and we have a certain margin, if you will, as far as how far we're allowed to shrink the splits down, and we exceeded that limit in some ways. And when we did is shorten the edge and allowed them to bring a guy off the edge. We should or could have seen it earlier, because the punt before that we shrunk our splits down too far, and they came off the edge, but it surprised them when they were that close to the ball, and they didn't really make an attempt to block it. So the next time they came out, they aligned the same way. We shrunk our splits down, and they came hard off the edge that time, anticipating that they could block it. So it was an alignment error on the players shrinking their splits down, thinking it was going to help them try to block someone that had lined up way down inside of their gaps.
You guys had the week off, and then you started getting votes in the AP poll, and then this week you win, and you lose all your votes in the AP poll. Any thoughts on that?
No, just now since you brought it up, we've been hard at it. We had a lot of good recruits in this weekend, about a half a dozen recruits. We have to spend time with them on Sunday, so we had to come in this morning and look at a couple hundred snaps of football before meeting with the recruits and try to get all that wrapped up by one. So I haven't checked the polls yet, but obviously if we play well and we continue to win, the votes will come our way, and those things will take care of themselves.
Gary Bush obviously had kind of a career type day yesterday, at least in terms of touchdowns and kind of production-wise. When he came in, did you recruit him as kind of a big play, kind of a threat guy? And he seems like he's really kind of showing up in maybe the screen pass game and then the red zone.
Well, we recruited Gary because he was a great athlete and a good person, but he was certainly a developmental player. He was very slight of build. He really had to increase his strength, but he was a great athlete and good people. So I'm not surprised to see him grow and develop into a big playmaker for us. But he's got great speed and explosion, and is an outstanding athlete, and has some personal pride. His biggest steps in development to me are what he's doing out on the perimeter from a physicality standpoint. I never thought I'd hear myself say that Gary Bush might be a pretty good blocker on the perimeter, but if he continues at the pace that he's going, he's going to end up being a good blocker on the perimeter. He has really improved in that area, and that's the most important thing. He caught the ball well on Saturday and made some plays, and his athleticism certainly showed up and stuck out. But I like the fact that he's working hard on the perimeter as a blocker, along with our other receivers as well.
Can you talk about the red zone offense? Does that kind of go hand in hand with scoring off of turnovers?
Well, I think so. Anytime it's a short field, then you have a chance to get your offense, in sync and in rhythm. We're better as a football team. We have an experienced quarterback back. We have more experience out on the perimeter at the receiver position. We have some experience in the backfield right now. We're better than we have been in the past, and that allows us to be a lot more productive in the red zone. And we spend a lot of time in practice working on against our defense in the red zone. So as a result, we've gotten better physically, and we've made each other better by going against each other in the red zone in practice. But I like what we're doing. The attempts that we had Saturday, I think we were 4 of 6 or 6 of 8. We were shy 2, and one of them was a 4th down play that we threw the ball in the end zone. We opted to do that rather than try to kick a field goal. And then the other was when we took a knee to kill the game at the end. That's called Victory O. So Victory O negated us a little bit of success, in the red zone Saturday.
Just the decision to go with Paul Griggs over Sam to kick the extra points in field goal yesterday.
Well, Paul has performed a little bit better in practice. And those guys have been neck and neck throughout the course of camp. And some weeks Sam's been ahead, and some weeks Paul has been ahead. But as of late, Paul has been more consistent in practice and has hit him really well in practice. And he's an excellent talent. He's very, very talented. So a good day for him. And then I thought Thomas Meadows had a big day. He was able to accrue some touchbacks for us, and we wanted to force Marshall to have to drive the length of the field. As successful they've been offensively, our kickoff coverage was one of our keys to victory on Saturday, and I thought that Thomas Meadows was a big part of that.
What do you need to do to shore up the PAT blocking? 4 blocks, 4 misses this year. That's
well,
a lot,
again, we have some new specialists. He had the timing and the operation. That has to be exact. There's not a lot of margin for error. And then obviously we have to hold up front. And in the game Saturday, we had a big, strong offensive lineman that blocked down into his gap. But the cardinal sin on PAT and field goal protection is you never move your outside foot. And guess what he did? He moved his outside foot, and that puts a lot of pressure on the guy that's blocking down in the gap outside of him, and they manufactured a block. There's a lot of teams that are doing a good job, not just against us, but like us, as far as putting a lot of pressure on the front and trying to block PATs and field goals. We're very good at it, and then we should be very good at the protection part of it, but you have to keep your outside foot planted.
I know you're probably just looking at Michigan, obviously, but how important is this next 3-game stretch being crucial to your season?
Well, obviously, any game that we play can be a difference maker, but this game this weekend is really big for our football team because we've been undefeated in Ross-Ade this season, and Michigan is a very fine football team with a lot of talent and a lot of depth. Win this weekend put us in a favorable position in regards to the leaders division. So a big game this weekend, but that's the only one that we're looking at right now. We've got to play our very best to beat a team like Michigan, and that's what our plans are.